Hello and welcome to another LinkedIn live chat. Hello, America's What's Cooking. I am Xenia Pola, Regional Director of ECA North America, and I will be your host today. For those who have been watching us every week, we are here on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. So please tune in and find us here every Thursday. Without further ado, I would like to welcome my guest, Melissa Cole. Melissa, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Senya. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see your face again. I think we haven't seen each other since IMEX in 2019. Is that right? That was the last time. So thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to being here.
Excellent. And we'll be seeing each other at IMEX next week. So this is a great time to first catch up virtually before we actually have the opportunity to give each other a hug. Before we get started, could you just let our audience quickly know who you are and what Say Something Communications does?
I sure can. So, my name is Melissa Cole. I'm one of the two founders of Say Something Communications Inc. It's a professional conference organizer based in Ottawa, Canada, where we've just had some horrible storms this week. So, I am going to apologize in advance if my internet goes in and out. We just got power back last night. Our PCO runs a lot of events, international conferences for international associations. We work with about 10 or so associations, the majority of which are international and a few that are Canadian national. So with that being the case, the rotation for the majority of our conferences is worldwide. So we travel around the world with our clients to organize their event. And during the pandemic, as with many other PCOs, we canceled events all over the world. But we're now back to in-person events. We just came back from Dublin with a client, and I'll be in Prague right after IMEX, and then again in Basel with international clients. So it's feeling fantastic to be back to in-person events.
Great, thank you, Melissa. And I would like to encourage everybody in the audience to give a shout out. Where are you calling in from? And also, if you have any questions for Melissa, please feel free to ask those as we go further. And you have set me up for our first question brilliantly, because you have tackled exactly what I wanted to hear from you. And you have two hats. You're the professional congress organizer hat, as well as wearing that association meeting planner hat. So I want to tackle some of those challenges and opportunities from both perspectives. Let's go first to the professional congress organizer side. What would you say were some of the biggest challenges you've experienced so far?
Well, I would say that we're dealing with a completely different world post-pandemic. I'm a conference organizer, but I am now looking at vaccine requirements around the world. What vaccines are acceptable for what countries, and what vaccines have been approved by the World Health Organization? What are the requirements of each country? Do you need a PCR test? Do you need a rapid test? Do you need no test, a certificate, no certificate? These are not things that are normally in the realm of conference organizers. I think I've learned more about geopolitics and medical terminology since we've been back to in-person events than I ever have before. It's not an unovercomable challenge, but it's just an element that we've never had as part of our regular planning process, or at least not to the extent that we have it now. But I would say that probably the largest challenge that we're having is the whole lift and shift that's happened in the past couple of years. So the number of events that were canceled and then rebooked has led to a real domino effect in terms of both availability of space, maybe I should say scarcity of space, as well as I would say there's less risk tolerance right now with my association clients, and to be honest, with venues. So less availability of venues and less flexibility with terms and conditions, I would say. Um, and a profound attention to some terms and conditions like force majeure that we kind of all just signed off on before. We maybe didn't consider to the same extent that we're considering now. Our association clients are very fearful of future waves of the pandemic. They know it's a concerning time to be signing a new contract. And on the other side, venues have been shut down for the best part of 2.5 years. They're looking to recover revenue and get back in the game. So those two have kind of created a perfect storm. One hand looking to get back to business, and one hand being very, very fearful of future waves of the pandemic. And I would say that another new thing is there's a profound labor shortage. Everywhere we look, where it's hitting us right now is with the audiovisual services, AV. All those folks during the shutdown, they had no choice but to go get other jobs. They had to pay their bills. That's what they've done. They've gone and gotten other jobs, and now AV companies are struggling to maintain staff in such a specialized profession anyways. We're having AV companies decline our RFPs simply for no other reason than they don't have staff that's available. That's a fundamental aspect of planning events. And now, without an awful lot of lead time, you might just not be able to get that service, or at least not competing bids for that service. And I think venues are facing that too. Employees that were furloughed have gone to get other jobs and maybe are not returning to the same venue. So venues that have never had issues with recruitment and retention are now facing issues with retaining and recruiting employees. So it's kind of a whole different ballgame post-pandemic.
And sadly enough, we are hearing that through many of our conversations, even here on the live chats. And for those people who will be in IMEX Frankfurt, there are sessions during the plenary which are speaking to that risk management, talent retention, and shortage. And even our ECHO North America Summit in Ottawa in beginning of June is really tackling that on a much, much deeper level with concrete action plans on how to tackle some of those huge challenges for our industry, but also for the association world. Just a quick shout out to you from Montreal. Bonjour,
Bonjour, Alain.
Melissa. Bonjour, Alain. Thank you for joining us. And I'll come, Alain, to your question straight away, which you have posted. I just wanted to stay on that entire PCO side, because you and I are eternal optimists.
For sure.
I know the two of us share that passion in common. Having said all those challenges, have you seen also some opportunities for the PCO side?
I for sure. I've seen challenges. Being an optimist is one of my favorite things in the world, and I hope that I'm an optimist for the rest of my life. So I see a lot of opportunities. I think that there's a lot of opportunities for PCOs to work together to co-locate their events. We know venues are kind of looking to have bigger events to recover some of the revenue that they've lost. Some associations don't have big events to give to venues, but associations always have small events that they can co-locate with different associations. Even if the associations are not related to each other, I still think that there's the opportunity to turn many small fish into one big fish. I think that benefits everyone. So associations that may get to know other people with similar business or not similar business, venues get higher revenue for holding the event. It's better for destinations. I think it's better for everyone. You probably recall Senya, my business partner, Chantal Beaupre. That idea popped into her head during one of the ICA events, and she's just kind of really running with it. And I also think, as much as we may be fatigued by virtual events, it's presented a lot of opportunities. In the past, associations may have only brought one or two people to their annual conference. Now, because most events are having a virtual component, way more people are able to go. Because I run mostly international events, what that means for me is that some of my delegates who are in countries with low vaccine uptake so far are still able to participate in the event. They're still able to absorb the content that's being presented. They're not excluded because there's low vaccine uptake so far in their country. So as much as we may be a little bit sick of virtual events, I think it's opened up a world. Even economies that developing or associations that are smaller can now send essentially their entire team to an event without having to worry about travel costs and so on. So I think that's a really big benefit. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying meeting the new faces in the industry. Like, I'm really, really enjoying that. Some destinations that know us really well, I'm now dealing with brand new people. Some longtime venues, I'm dealing with new people. I think it's revitalizing, both personally and professionally, to be meeting so many new people.
And do you think that the supplier industry, the meetings industry, they could play a larger role in bringing those events together and in being more proactive in that co-location idea, suggestion?
So I hope so. It's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to going to IMEX to establish some, some contacts that may be interested in the same, and even in a forum like this to get people starting to think about whether, looking to other associations to co-locate is a good way to get things started. Most of our clients now, the live events that we're doing, the one we just came back from, had a co-location element. Next year, we'll also have a co-location element. And then the one that we're doing in Calgary in June is two associations together. So I think that there are fantastic opportunities there. Smaller associations may struggle getting sufficient meeting space on their own, but with many together, we'll have better prices for AV, better prices for catering, for accommodations, and access, I think, to more resources to take that approach.
And you have tackled the question of challenges, but also opportunities for the association perspective. And to one of the points you have mentioned is about growing your audience, your communities as an association, getting those delegates who didn't used to be able to attend digitally. Do you think a lot of the trend will be that we will have to have that digital component attached to every event?
I think that ship has sailed. I think that there's going to be that expectation, at least for the next few years, that our live events have a virtual component. We've gotten accustomed to it. I know my clients, when we talk about association challenges, that'll be something I chat about a little bit more, but that's the expectation from their members. When there's a live event, people that cannot attend will be able to participate virtually.
And this feeds into the question from Alain also. Do you think, or from your conversations and experience now, having done a few of those in-person events, what are delegate participants expecting in terms of experience, and how does that differ for in-person versus the digital component?
So I think that that's going to be a challenge for the next couple of years. We have spent the majority of our time during the pandemic participating in events that are somewhat receptive. You sit in front of your computer and the content is delivered to you. That's a different experience when you go to an event and you're actively engaging in the content. Um, but the majority of the virtual participants, they still do have somewhat of a receptive role rather than an active participation. I think that things will continue to evolve as we get more comfortable with hybrid events, but right now that's a pretty big difference. I would say the folks that are attending in person, they at least have the opportunity to actively participate to the extent that they want to. But that's a little bit more of a challenge, I think, for the virtual participants.
And do you think this is also a challenge for the associations coming in? Do they need now more resources to teams to engage with the online audience, take care of the in-person audience, deliver different experiences? And how would small associations go about that?
Well, I think that that's going to be a challenge, and associations are already grappling anyways. They've suffered a big loss to their business continuity by not having in-person events. And more than anything, I think they've suffered a loss to their membership. So I have one client that has lost 25% of their members during the pandemic. That's an almost catastrophic loss for the association, for the simple reason that as the in-person events were canceled over and over, their membership was diluted. They didn't see the same benefit to paying membership dues that did not include an annual convention. So I think associations are already struggling with those two things, the lower membership and loss in business continuity. And then in addition, there is now the expectation, and it's an expectation for sure, that future in-person events have this component, have the virtual component. And what it does mean for associations is much higher costs for audiovisual services. But more than anything, many of my clients, and I know that this is the case for a lot of associations, they offered virtual participation for no cost, or at least a very reduced cost. And when you hold an event in person, there's going to be a cost. And it's going to be a cost that's much higher than zero, or much higher than the very reduced rate that was taking place during the pandemic. So they're not only struggling with the things that I've mentioned, business continuity, loss in membership, changing expectations, they have overt resistance from people to pay the higher fees to attend the in-person event, or the virtual component of the in-person event.
So we are struggling getting those delegates back into the in-person meetings, thinking, oh, I'll just
go virtual.
Yeah, and do it for free. So while we manage to engage and make things happen from an association perspective by giving a lot of content for free, we may have actually done ourselves a disservice in now trying to convert all that content and engagement into monies.
I think that that's probably the best way of saying with it. They are struggling. My association clients definitely are struggling with engagement. There's no doubt, because on top of this, people also have some Zoom fatigue. We're kind of sick of trying to network in a virtual environment. And then in addition, the resources, as you know, when you run a hybrid event, you are essentially running an in-person event as well as a virtual event. So all of the resources, it's essentially organizing two events. You have higher costs for absolutely everything.
I think that I'm coming back. I think I'm back.
Yep, you're back.
I think I'm back. Yeah. So do you think that association meeting planners are mindful of that in-person engagement component? Are people intentionally building better engagement and experiences for the in-person elements? Or do people think, oh no, they are all in person, they can network and do things on their own?
So I would say the former. They're intentionally trying. There's a lot of focus on content development right now. The associations that I work for, they don't have in-house planners. They use a third-party planner, us. But they are now pulling us into the development of their content, precisely because they are looking to have very high engagement after 2 years, more than 2 years of not seeing each other. They're looking for interactive content rather than just, I used to call it spray and pray, just spray the content and hope that it sticks, pray that it sticks. They're looking for more than that for the in-person component.
Oh, I love your sayings. You introduced two in this show, so I have to remember those because they really resonate with me. But you also touched on one of the things I wanted to have as one of our last questions today. You spoke about your changing role with the association and why. So do you feel that your business model as the PCO has changed and that the lines a little bit more now blurred between association planner and PCO, and it's becoming much more one new type of organization?
Yes, I do. Without a doubt, our business model has changed. And I'm another reason looking forward to going to IMEX. I suspect that what I'm going to say is going to really resonate with the association planners that are in the audience. So our PCO, if you check out our website, our business model is based on what we call being relentlessly ethical. And we're still trying to do that, but there are challenges now in terms of the shifting terms and conditions in the event world. So for many of our clients, we are their agent. We owe them a fiduciary responsibility as their agent. We're also sometimes their financial custodian. So that's a very high level in terms of our responsibility, our legal responsibility towards our clients. Where we are spending our most time right now is on contract negotiation. Our clients are very fearful of signing new contracts in such a concerning time, both with venues and with suppliers. So in the past, where they may have been comfortable to navigate the contract negotiation component on their own, they're no longer doing that. They're looking to us for that. I spend, I would say, 25% of my time right now on contract negotiation on behalf of my clients. So either with venues or with suppliers. It's a really profound change in the way that we do business, even in fact to the point where Chantal and I have changed our entire RFP process. So we have certain mandatory requirements for contracts that they deal with provisions for infectious disease, force majeure, and liquidated damages. Those are the three biggest ones. Now, because we are spending so much time on this, we just put those right in our RFP and we let destinations and venues know this is what's required to win the business. So we don't want to be, at loggerheads with venues. We think it's fair to be transparent by putting this directly into our RFP and just politely saying, please don't bid on this project if you're not able to meet these terms. We've never done that before. And again, I'll go back to the notion of co-locating. That's something that we're able to do for our large association clients that come with a lot of buying power. Smaller meetings may struggle to get those same terms and conditions, but by co-locating, making a series of small events into larger events, I think it gives more negotiating power with venues as well. And in the end, that is a tool of risk management. More than anything else, it's a tool of risk management.
Excellent. And I might have to involve you to actually run one of the key pillar discussions at the ICA North America Summit, because you are touching on so many elements of what we will be dealing with and go from that pure survival mode to thriving, and how to do those business models, change them. What are some of the key considerations? And I think that contract negotiation part is really critical for both the suppliers and associations to understand.
I completely.
There are solutions, right?
There are 100% solutions that make both parties whole, that share the risk between the group and the venue, where no one has to lose. So I would love to participate in something like that. Again, it's my eternal optimist side. I don't believe that this at all has to be us versus them. I think that there are pretty easy, accessible, achievable solutions that share the risk between both parties to a contract, and also at the same time make sure that both parties remain whole.
Excellent. And I'll be following up straight away after our live chat to enlist you to participate. And you have also within the audience compliments. Heather is saying brilliant, just brilliant, Melissa and Chantal. So before we say goodbye to everybody today, this conversation was amazing. We've learned so much, and I have to also remember our two sayings you introduced. But because we are on a Hey, What's Cooking show, any favorite foods, restaurants? I'll be coming to Ottawa, so.
Oh, that's right. You'll be coming to Ottawa. It's funny because the recommendations I have are for Frankfurt. So Frankfurt is a city where we organize the International Convention in Frankfurt every single year. I'm blessed to have spent a lot of time in Frankfurt and discovered their venues. So for those of you going to IMEX, there are two restaurant recommendations that I would like to make to you. The first is called Main Nizza. It's right on the Main River. It's got lovely windows that overlook the Main River in Frankfurt, and the most amazing schnitzel and white asparagus I've ever had in my life. There's also a restaurant in Frankfurt called the Ivory Coast. I think that's what it's called. I think it's the Ivory Coast. It's a Indian restaurant that's got if you're a spicy food fan, it's got the hottest vindaloo that I've ever had in my life. It's called Separating the Boys from the Men Vindaloo. And it is a spicy, 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 amazing venue if you love
So
Indian
not
food.
for me, but the way to start this are a must if you are in Germany. Thank you for all those tips. And if anybody wants to learn more about Say Something Communications, please feel free to visit their website, saysomethingcommunications.com. And I assume, Melissa, people can connect with you on LinkedIn and continue this discussion as well. And
Absolutely.
on the ICA membership directory, there is also contact details for you if they want to chat more about what you've just touched on during our live chat. So without further ado, I want to end our inspiring conversation. If anybody wants to join us on this live chat, please feel free to email me at xenia.p@icaworld.org. We will not have any live chat the coming 2 weeks because I will be in Frankfurt and I will be in Canada. So we will have some different type of content coming out of that, which will be more in pictures and messaging. So keep connected to me also via LinkedIn, and you will get a feel from what's coming. And I am planning to live stream one tiny surprise from our Canada, our North America Summit in Canada. So stay tuned on the Thursday again, but it will be in the morning, 9:30 Eastern. So thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us. It was such a great pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Xenia. I'm looking forward to that hug in Germany next week.